a lively conversation on that topic. And then just reminding you that coming up next week, February 10th, we will have the return of Judge Quander, who will be talking with Clarence about Black family history. That should be a terrific conversation. The 17th, we won't be meeting because of President's Day, but we will return on the 24th to round out Black History Month with LaKoya Jassess and Tony Odom, who will be talking about Afro-womanism and Black feminism. So that should also be a terrific, messy conversation. We're glad that you're here. Hope you brought a friend. Two quick reminders. Please keep yourself muted until you're asked to join the conversation, unless you're one of our guests, and we never want you to mute. And if you have questions, comments, things you're wondering about, please put them in the chat, and we will call on you in the second half of our time together. And with that, let me hand things off to Clarence.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom. We who believe in freedom. We who believe cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers, sons is as important as the killing of a white man, white mother's son. Oh, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. Oh no, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. That which touches me most is that I had the chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. And if I could but shed some light as they carry us through the gale. Oh, we who believe in freedom, believe in freedom, cannot rest. Oh no, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Oh no.
Yes, I am indeed Clarence R. Williams. I am a grad student representative for the Messy Conversation Planning Team, and this is indeed, as David mentioned, a very special edition of Messy Conversation as we at Antioch are celebrating Black History Month, despite the fact that the federal government has banned all observances in their households. We in this house are celebrating Black history. Black history is American history, and American history is Black history. And Black music is American music, and American music is Black music. So I leave you with that mantra that you may kind of marinate on as we go through this journey today of discussing Black music as activism. And I would like to introduce to you our two conversationists today because, well, we can't have this conversation without people who've been working in this journey of activism through music, through the arts, through the creative space. And I'm really happy that this space that you're going to witness today is a creative space. It's a creative space of joy, and I have joyful creatives on with me, and I think we can have a joyful time today. So, joining me is someone you've already met. She's our friend at Messy Conversations. It's P.S. Perkins. She's a co founder of the Human Communications Institute. She is indeed like Carol Maillard, who you meet shortly, and myself. We all wear multiple hats. And through her creativity, she has been as prevalent in every art form you can name. So today I welcome her back to us. Along with PS is going to be Carol Maillard, who's coming to us for the first time. I don't use this word as PS Perkins, who is a master with communication. I don't use the word legendary loosely in any form, but she is a legend in her own right. She is a musician. She is the founding member of Sweet Honey in the Rock, the most infamous a cappella ensemble who has traveled the world multiple times, teaching and bringing about truth through their artistry. She's also an actress. She's appeared on the Broadway stage and film and television, you name it. She is indeed a creative soul. So, welcome, Carol Maillard, to this messy conversation space. And I hope we can get really messy around this music and activism.
Thank you, Clarence.
In order
Thank
to
you.
proceed, one of the things that Messy always does, and especially being a student of Dr. Elaine Parker Gills, I would not be remiss if we did not at least examine what Black music is in the world and how it came about in America. So, in saying that, I just want you to just kind of like envision, and P.S., I'm gonna need your help with this, but just imagine if you got on a ship and you decided to go up and down the coast of a whole continent and just collect people from all different tribes, all different languages, all different rituals of culture, and you bring them to this other country, and you go back again, you get more, and you bring them back. So all of a sudden, you got all of these people that you choose to enslave. You disavow them to use their own language, their own culture. They can't use their own music. They can't use their own ideology, so their religions cannot be utilized. You start to spoon feed them a language of your own, which is called English, and you will not let them communicate with each other unless they're using this English that you don't understand. So now you have them in this place, you work them with no compensation, you take them to your place of worship, and you won't let them do anything but learn your music. Then, if you see them communicating with each other in the same language, you separate them, you break the families up, you sell the people that speak the same language with each other. So now, how are they left to communicate with each other, P.S. Perkins? How are they able to create music in this new land?
Thank you for inviting me, Messy Conversations, again. And yes, we need some messy conversations that have been blocked and blocked and blocked. And now, trying to find a way to weave and continue to weave our United States of America story is difficult without words. So to answer your question, um, anyone that controls the words controls everything. I probably said this today in a class. Whoever controls the words controls everything. And as a result, we see the political milieu that we're involved in right now, and most of it is capturing who controls the words. Um, so, what happens when you come and you are divided? Your language is completely obliterated mentally, physically, emotionally. Many of you remember watching probably Roots when you were younger or hearing about it, and finally the man screaming out, "My name is Toby!" Because they finally beat out Kutakinde, Kutakinte. Finally. And then we hear that the Alex Haley saga. This is real. So what do? They find other ways to communicate like they always did, like everyone does. How does the deaf? How does the visually impaired? Everyone communicates. Everyone must communicate. All of creation communicates. Our trees in California have recently closed their pores down because we were communicating fire to them. And so the trees have the capacity to close off their pores, which many people didn't know. And then, of course, all the fallout for the creatures. So, what did we do? We created another level of how do we commune when we're at home? Well, we use what nature offers. We use the drum, we use the flute, we use the stump, we use the anything and everything, including animal sounds, forest sounds that could possibly transmit a message. And so we just
So,
followed up
to
with
your
different
point,
things.
the enslaved people would go out into the woods, and this is when the first Black music was created. They would go into the woods and they started doing the hollering, but they started first doing something called the shout,
Mhm.
the shout. And with the shout, they could not speak the language yet, as to your point, but they would use objects, like they would maybe beat a pot, or they would take
Mhm.
a gourd, but they would do the sounds of their languages in this kind of ritualistic circle.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that was the first music. And then, of course, as they started to collectively learn this new language, English, in the fields, they started the hollering. And after the hollering, and they mastered by going to the church house with their masters, they then began to create the spirituals. So, Carol Maillard, what do you want to say to us about the spirituals and the advent of the spiritual? And
I
what did
think
that bring? What did that add to our musical history, the spiritual?
um thank you for having me, everyone, Clarence and everyone. Um I'm listening to everything that you all are saying and putting it into, I guess, a context that I understand historically. I think that what the esteemed doctor said about you find a way to communicate, that you find a way, you beat you tap your body, you hum, you sing something familiar, and I guess maybe someone from another tribe hears that, and you go out into out into the woods late at night, and I do remember stories about that pot would hold the sound. Sometimes something like that would keep the sound from escaping too far. So that is where I believe people sang their joy, and they sang their sorrow.
Mhm.
I think they sang their longing. I think some of them sang those traditional songs. And if any, English came through on that, then they were able to have something they could all hold on to. I did a show a while ago called Colored People's Time. What you all are talking about, the first scene in the show is about enslaved people running out into late at night in the woods, quiet. They're gonna have this. They're gonna try, and they're not trying, but they are mimicking a church service. They got a pot. They turn it upside down, and she sings, "I know, member, no law. I know I had a bell dial ring. Wanna go to meeting, the bell dial ring. Wanna go to meeting, the bell dial ring. Can't get to heaven if the bell don't ring. If you better follow Jesus for the bell dial ring." And I remember learning it. I was an understudy and learning it and knowing the music of Sweet Honey and the music of my culture from way back. That song will never leave me because I felt in that scene, I understood what it was to be back there in that moment. Everything I do musically, I come from, I guess, a place of understanding, creating characters, telling stories, and letting the music be the vehicle that the story comes through. These songs, some of them were simply, I would say, like I said, a song of longing. You know, some of those songs, they had those secret messages. They had those messages. They found that they could use those songs to get you out of that cabin and follow Harriet or whoever was Peg Leg Pete, what was that? Following the drinking gourd, those kind of things, braiding the hair, even to follow a route, to know how to get to a route to freedom. So we do what we do. We do what we have to do. We are resilient people. Our music is always going to tell stories, whether we like the stories we hear or not. We're going to always be that way. I just think humans are like that, but I think Black American humans have another way of approaching survival, how we survive through our sound, through our dance, through the food that we're able to hold on to the stories we tell. Who's the griot in the tribe that is on the blah, blah, blah plantation? They made up a new tribe, but basically they're operating in a tribal way, I would say, and anyone wants to
But you know,
contribute to that, you know.
I'm sorry, Carol, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you mentioned
No, I
something
was
that
just going to round it off. Yeah,
you mentioned two things that I really resonate with when you're speaking of the drums and the communication and the codes through the songs. And we know that the drums were taken away when they
yeah,
realized that the enslaved people were actually communicating with the drums. But also, the spirituals, as you said, were used to also be code. Follow the drinking gourd, as you mentioned.
yeah.
Sweet Low Sweet Chariot, it was another song to let you know we're gonna leave tomorrow night, and we
Uh-huh. Wade
go
in the water, wade in the
wade in the
water.
water. Yes, yes. And Sweet Honey, throughout your career, and I'm not going to say how long because I tell people at Antioch I'm 23 years old, so I'm
Uh-huh.
not going to say how long
Yeah.
I've known Sweet Honey, but I know that you guys do a song called Juba, which kind of
Yeah.
illustrates that whole thing of when they took the drum away, the body. The body is
Yes.
musical. The body becomes the tool for the sound, just as you just said.
Yeah.
So black music is also transferable, it's portable. It goes wherever you go. Wherever you
Yeah.
go, you can make the sounds, the sonic sounds with your body. It's participatory. So you can clap, you can stomp, you can shout.
Right. Also, Clarence, also there are, sounds that work together in a certain way. We don't really understand that now, because that's not part of our culture, how we learn, how we hear, but we know what the reaction is in the body, in the soul, in the mind when certain sounds are produced and your inner world is stimulated through those sounds. We had that. Those weren't no so little random tunes or random chants that we were coming up with that we had traditionally through the history of wherever we came from. Whatever that cultural history is from whence we came, I think we still carry all that in our DNA. So that certain sounds are gonna vibrate, inspire, and heal. Sound for healing. I know in Hindu culture, there's something called Matrika Shakti, which is the power of letters, which is the power behind how you put certain mantras and prayers together. I believe all traditional people, indigenous people, ancient people have that not natural ability, but that's what we do. Put those sounds and things together to affect change, to move, to create a pyramid. Using that sound to move stone, to move water, to make things vibrate, using sound to do that.
That's really interesting. You bring up the Gurot. So, P.S. Perkins,
Yeah.
since we were not a people who wrote our stories, tell us how they were passed on from that slave plantation.
It's really interesting. It's interesting you bring that up because I actually talked about the griots today in a couple of classes. Had the fortune several years ago to bring a seventh generation griot to San Diego, and he spoke about the level of honor that the griots had within the villages that used them. And this is not just the African griots, but the shamans and imams and others that had a more hierarchical manner of looking at things. The world is divided into two people, individualistic and collective. And these collective peoples that Carol speaks about have always traveled with their sounds. I want to clarify that communication is not talking. And so they erred when they thought that if we could not talk, we would not communicate. That was it is still an
Come on.
error.
Ooh,
And
yes.
this is for everybody. We did not into our humanity of communication. We maintained our talking status and we maintained our hearing status and we de-evolved into the status of the animals and others around us because we refused to understand that communication is a science. When Carol talks about the DNA issue, yes, epigenetics is real. It's real. And environment and environmental communication and all of that plays a role in everyone's lives. We happen to be an oral people along with the vast majority of the world who gave others, who gave our, handed down our ancestral understanding and values, attitudes, and beliefs. All of that was
Right.
done orally until it was disrupted with the necessity of order and programming and just as Socrates,
Control and
yeah,
control.
and Socrates and Aristotle, they are credited with, in the Western world, is credited with that order, which is great. The five canons, all of that, everybody contribute. The Chinese brought the first printing. So it's all over, it's everywhere. We just happen to come from a people that were extremely oral. Irish are oral, very oral people. And they maintain their Gaelic and several other European groups. So we're not alone in that. However, the Eurocentric paradigm of linear communication, getting to the point, getting to the point, getting to the point. We as slaves and people that have come from slaves have had to learn how to leave that circular type of communication within our communities and become very linear with others that are paying for linear,
That's two. Right, 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 right,
right?
right.
And mandating linear. And so we're running again into this problem of we can't communicate. It doesn't matter how much they get rid of DEI, AAE, or it doesn't really matter. The whole thing was about communication. It dropped, it was never capable of doing what we wanted to do, and that is to bring us all together. The music does, to get back to
Uh-huh.
it, brings us together. It always has, because there's the three things. Music is verbal, it's vocal, and it's nonverbal. So everything that Carol was talking about and you were talking about in terms of body, that's nonverbal. People look at you and assess you nonverbally before anything.
Uh-huh.
That's why we're so lauded, because of how our presence is so large and so huge in the industries where word is honored, where the spoken word is honored, where the heart word is honored, where the feeling of word is honored. I grew up in a family, and I'll let you get back, but I was saying to Clarence, well, okay, let's do this, because out of all the arts, my family was completely entrenched in music. It was my cushion and comfort, but it was also my pain and sorrow. Father, minister of music, mother, jazz singer, watched them grow up, watched them after King died, and they were middle class, and but they just keep going and going and going and engaging in, like Lewis says, or God rest him, good trouble. We were about good trouble. And so
Hmm.
activism and protest music that I grew up with was about good trouble. So when she was talking about wade in the water, children, wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the waters. Well, how we know that? Well, they did give us
Hmm.
the Bible, didn't we? And we stole that Bible and we went out in the woods and we started to duplicate, but take it for ourselves. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Amen.
So we know that even in our silence, there is power, there is a language, there is a message there. And so I want to just take us back to the music, and without continuing this path necessarily of chronological history, let me just ask you about process, Carol.
Hmm.
I know that you on your own, you're a prolific songwriter, but Sweet Honey in the Rock has been known throughout the world as being a musical entity of sorts that brings about advocacy, that teaches us about world ills and advocates for around truth. What is your personal process when you want to write down a song to convey a message, a language about
Mm.
something that is ill in the world? Now, I have witnessed your work around apartheid. You know, the
Right.
first time I saw Sweet Honey do State of Emergency, I almost lost
Yeah.
my very mind. I can't remember whether it was Carnegie Hall in New York or whether it was in DC, but I literally almost lost my mind. First of all, vocally and musically, I'd never seen anything like that done. And I'd seen you guys many times before I heard you do that song. But when you did that
Mm.
song, I think it ignited my soul to the point that I actually went out and started getting in the picket lines with Randall Robinson outside of the
Uh-huh.
South African consulate in Washington, D.C. So please share with us about your personal process, and maybe even tell us how your collective process lived in
Ooh,
that creation of that song or in
I
any of the
wasn't
music.
there. I wasn't there during that time.
You weren't.
During no, I sang the
Oh,
song.
wow.
I took over the song when Evelyn left, but
Okay.
I was not a part of that. And that song, talking about the Grammys, that was. Ooh, let me think about that. I think that was the first song of Sweet Honey in the Rocks that was of her own, the group that was nominated for a Grammy for Song of the Year. That was the first time that happened. I can
Okay.
only
Well,
I can speak about my own
yeah,
process
your own. Correct.
because
Yeah, please.
well, hmm, I'm going to allude to one song in particular that I wrote, because I can't say that I necessarily write songs that when I'm coming up with them, I'm thinking I'm approaching an issue, you know. Um, Things come up. This is the best way I can do it. It comes up from somewhere down in your belly into your middle body and solar plexus, and right on up to your and out. It comes up and out. I may hear it up here, but the way I feel it is coming up and out. It may be just a phrase. It may be a little piece of a melody. It may be both together. It may be a chord progression. Everybody in Sweet Honey has a totally different process for how a song comes to them and how they execute it, how they arrange it, teach it, produce it, and record it. Every person. And even when we come together as a group to write a song, like we did IDK, but I'm LOL, We did Are We a Nation about the Arizona's SB 1047 rule. We've done songs together that deal with issues that might be that are happening now. But like I said, each person is individual how they approach it. For me, I had a moment where I kept hearing everybody talk. I'm gonna go back to Columbine, and everyone. I'm gonna say it out. You know, all the white people that got on the thing, on the TV with the microphones and stuff. Oh, the line I kept hearing. That kind of thing doesn't happen here. So what came in my mind? Well, where does it happen? What are you trying to say? That these mass shootings or guns are only in y'all's neighborhood that was their code. It doesn't happen here in our neighborhood. It happens with them other people. And that phrase just kept vibrating. What do you mean it doesn't happen here? So how the song came up and out, I see myself just standing like in the kitchen, on the way in the kitchen, and just stopping, and the words just tumbled out. And at that point in time, we didn't have the phone, so I put pen to paper and kept working on the lyrics. That said, it doesn't. The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. It doesn't matter where you're living. The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. His only daughter, her second child, a kid with a gun. You know, some bullets find their targets. Bombs can take you right on cue. Some in the hands of babies or officials and their crew. So I was putting those things together as points that I recognized during this Columbine conversation. That was 24 years ago, and we still sing it. There's some songs that we say that we like for them to turn into historical documents that we might go back, like emergency, state of emergency. You know, that was a particular time, and that could be a historical document because apartheid is technically over. But we still sing these songs. We're still singing The Women Gather uh, at our concerts, and it resonates with people because that kind of thing just doesn't seem to want to stop. So that's basically my process. I'm just open to hear and allow it to come up and out, whatever's going on. I write more. I think I approach my songwriting more from healing in a spiritual way, about meditating or God, or with all that is, or the spiritual front, or doing better for yourself, or like that. I'm more in that area. So the women gather is I think my strongest issue driven song. I hope that gives you some hint.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. And P.S. I know that you yourself write around
Mhm.
issues as well. What is your process? How do you approach those ills of the world?
Uh,
I think what I'm a very I write all day. I write all night in my
uh,
head. You know, the phone helps now, and I can go back and pull up hundreds and hundreds. But I want to if I could talk about the process that I grew up with the singers and the writers. My father was minister of music at a church. He graduated from Fisk University as a Jubilee singer. When
uh,
he when he graduated, he was in the graduation class with Leontine Price, who was also a Jubilee singer with him. There was a recent, and I don't know if Asa has that picture of the Jubilee singer, if you want to put it up, but it's a Broadway play now,
get out of
Jubilee.
here.
It's been
That's what that's
Broadway.
about. You know, I didn't
Yes,
even know, girl. I saw
it.
Jubilee.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
Yes,
fabulous to
it
know.
is about the Fisk University, and you're seeing some things in the chat. Thank you. The Fisk University Jubilee Singers. And I'll never forget my father's being so proud of being a Jubilee singer at Fisk University. I didn't know until after he was gone that Leontine Price was in his class with him. Then
Can
he,
you share with our viewers what the Fish Jubilee Singers were and
Yeah.
what their role was initially with this and how they were used to
Well,
change the image of Black
I,
people?
I think people should do that research because it would take more time than I would like
Yeah.
to use for that. But I will say that they use the singers to gain sponsors for the school,
To
and they
raise
Yeah.
would
money,
go
yes,
out, raise money. They would go out
yes.
and sing at different organizations, and you have to understand dignity was
Woo.
number one forever until recent years. It was all
Yeah.
about dignity.
Yeah.
And yes, some of us got tired of it. My mother was a jazz singer. As a matter of fact, on my website, if you go to my website, the theme song on my website is my mother's actual voice, music, and everything.
Ah.
Because I couldn't let her dream go with her. She left 3 years ago, and just worked and worked and worked. Mom would sit down at the piano and start playing. I
Uh-huh.
remember when Daddy bought that piece of a piano in the house, and she set it there in the corner. And she played and played and played in between six kids and seven, and then the grandkids and this. And I'm looking at her, and we waiting, and she like and could not read a note, but she could compose and
Yeah.
sing and do everything with the help of others and my dad. So we grew up like that. Everybody had to play an instrument. And when I say everybody, everybody, everybody
Uh-huh.
had to sing. When I say
The
everybody,
wonderful
I
thing
mean
about
everybody.
the Fisk Jubilee Singers is one of the things they were able to do was to combat the stereotypes that the minstrel shows were out in the world
Right,
telling people what Black people were.
Uh-huh.
So all of a sudden, they're seeing
right.
these, as you say, these very dignified Black students who are singing like angels, these spirituals that have been passed on from generation to generation. And now, not only were they raising money for this historically Black colleges, but they were changing the image of what Black Negroes were in society at that time, which kind of like goes along with what Du Bois was trying to do with the Talented Tenth and the Harlem Renaissance. But I'm sorry,
Right.
But
go on,
remember,
yes.
and remember, our communities were insulated. We didn't care about them, those the other ones. We weren't allowed. Now I will say in my family, my mother and father, as most Black people of slave descent, we learned to be extremely kind, magnanimous, and like someone said to me the other day, my mother told me if anything ever happened to me, it was an Arab student, to get in touch with find a Black woman, and she'll
Oh,
help you.
get out of here.
No,
That's
no, and
fabulous. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because they know us
We're,
as we suckled this country in many, many ways. And so, to our
yeah.
own hurt, of course, especially our families and our husbands, that now we see the fallout through the epigenetic, uh, stuff that's come through. We went to church. We went to the mm, we went to the gatherings. We went everywhere, and it was always music. It was
Yeah.
always music, always music, always music. And that's why you still have the block parties and the street parties and everything, because they know. And my mom and them, they jonesed so much. Let me use a different word. They wanted so much to keep that happening. We had to do Christmas plays. We had to do everything. And I saw my mother when when my father died young, and she held on and kept the music and kept the music, and everybody kept singing. One of her greatest disappointments was when she didn't let one of her children go sing with John P. Key, who is a masterful gospel singer now. And she refused to let
Mm.
my sister go. My sister died young, and she always wondered later in life, what if I had let her sing? You think she'd be okay now? Because it's in our blood, in
Yeah.
everything that we say, everything that we do. I'm a singer. They asked me, why don't you sing? Well, I got other things to do. Uh, along with singing, along with dancing,
Yeah.
but I gave up the stage a while ago, that stage, because I was disappointed with the minstrels and all the other stuff that they kept telling us to sing, babies, dance, baby. And so I went to human communication where I could keep the arts going, keep the rhetoric going, keep the griots going, keep all that going, but not at the cost of our dignity.
I
And
And
hear
to
so
you.
your point
that's it.
about the
Yes.
church, I'm told
Yes.
by the ethnomusicologists, the Black church was the music conservatory for Black
That's right.
people.
Of course.
All of our music has some connection to that church. And when you bring up the gospel that your family was involved with in the church, that gospel music coming out of the church spun so many other kinds of music. You look at
Ooh,
Thomas Dorsey, who grew up in the church, was
Thomas
trying
Dorsey.
so hard
to
to
be a
be
jazz.
in the secular world with the blues, in the honky tonks, in the brothels. And he had to go back to the church. And when he went back to the church, he carried all of that circular music with him, the blues, the jazz, and all of that with him to create gospel. And that gospel then took the hymns and the spirituals and brought that on out into the world. What do you say, Carol Maillard?
I'm just laughing because I do a Thomas Dorsey in the show. I was standing by the bedside of a neighbor, and I sometimes used to tell the story, about how just what you said, Clarence. He was doing that blues, doing that, and brought all of that. That's what we
Mhm.
do. He's
Mhm.
gonna bring all of that with him and put it in the pot.
Mhm.
Some people probably, were like, oh, that's, the devil's music, this part, that part. But boy, did he make an incredible impact on how music, has affected our music, our sensibility and our giving, our generosity of spirit and talent has made music, changed music all around the world, even in Antarctica, I'm sure. But I wanted to add something to the Fifth Jubilee story because, well, Clarence, I know you know Chapman Roberts,
Yes,
and
indeed.
well, yeah, and I did a creating cultural creating cultural conversations between the United States, Sweet Honey, and some scholars, music scholars, and Great Britain. And their music scholars and historians, because Sweet Honey was going to Great Britain during their Black History Month. And I'm like, we cannot go over there and not talk to these people about what they're doing for Black History Month and act like we don't know what's going on. So I created with Chapman and another gentleman from Great Britain, creating cultural conversations, which is like messy conversations.
Exactly.
Um, but one of the things that Chapman brought up during our conversation was Queen Victoria's um, influence and effect on sharing our spiritual tradition, the newly formed classical spirituals that the Fifth Jubilee singers were doing, and how she financed them, and how she put. He said that there's a building there that she financed, and how much. And I said, well, that was her grandmama was an African, so she was feeling it in her blood when she heard them spirituals. I don't know why I love this music so much. Ooh, because she was an African too, so I know that British people don't want to hear that. But anyway, he's doing a project in June called Legacy, I believe. And he's going to do the music of the Fisk Jubilee singers and their relationship with Queen Victoria, how she sent them all over Europe as far as Russia and back and forth, and financed so much, and let that music be a part of European understanding of what our music could do for them, how it could affect them, what it made them feel. They may not have understood it from our enslavement, but there was something in it that they really heard in music. It's just like you said, it's just in you. It's just going to touch you, or what are you, some kind of cold fish?
I know we're running out of time, but I just really want, for David Tripp's benefit, I want to bring back a point around jazz. When I
Yeah.
was doing my research in around activism and Black music, I thought, well, what about jazz? I really don't know, like outside of Nina and Abby Lincoln, and what about jazz? How is jazz used as an advocacy or used as activism? And then I heard one of the ethnomusicologists at the Smithsonian says, well, jazz is activism because it is liberation in itself. It doesn't matter
Ooh.
if it's just the music or whether it's vocal messages. It is in itself, an act of disruption and an act of advocation and an act of activism. So I just want to ask you to weigh in on that quickly before we open the room up for a few quick questions.
I will pass on that answer.
I
I gotta think about it a little bit.
Yeah, I most definitely. If you can't go to if you can't go to their club, you can't party in their neighborhood. You can't,
Uh-huh.
so we got to do our thing. Whether you call it honky tonk jazz or whatever you want to call it. I remember
Or
Daddy going,
bebop.
yeah,
Bebop.
going down the street to the house. Where he at? He on the corner at the house. What they doing? Playing cards, smoking cigarette, playing jazz, and then they get up and start swinging, which is different. But see, the jazz they're listening to is, and they're older now. They're in their 30s, 40s, and they're like, yeah, that's cool. That's who we are.
Uh-huh.
They're trying to hold on to the coolness, the manliness, the femininity of what they did. I mean, I saw men take coats off women, of themselves, and put it over a puddle on the way to the
Oh.
jazz club. You see,
Uh-huh.
I think it was about we have arrived and we will celebrate that by expanding beyond spirituals and gospels into everyday working man. Let me relax, pop a beer, sit down and listen and chill. And that's how
Yeah.
I growing up.
And you hear, Nina
Go ahead.
Simone singing Mississippi Goddamn, and you wonder, as an artist, and we're going to wrap up around this thought, but as an artist, how she suffered, how her career suffered because she chose to use jazz to speak out about what was going on during
Right.
that period of time with that one song. Or you look at Billie Holiday. She resisted singing Strange Fruit because, first of all, it was written by a Jewish guy, a Jewish English teacher from Queens, New York, and
Uh-huh.
they kind of pushed it on her. But that poem, that song, became like an anthem for her whole career almost. And she was like, kind of like banned in certain places because of that one song. Her life was threatened and everything. But what do you think
Right.
about the artists who really stepped out in their
Uh,
advocacy, who did not care, who stepped out with unbridled bravery
Right. That's
to
right.
advocate through their music?
That's right. I want to make
I
one point. Let me just say this, Carol, real quick.
okay.
Our protest music is alive today. It's alive in ways that we may not recognize. And we don't want to recognize often the contributions of some of the new singers. And we talked about this, but there are people out. I'll use, for instance, Sexy Red as one, and many others that have created a different type of protest music that says, we are whatever you said we are, but we're getting paid for it. And
Ooh.
now, my students and people around me are hipping me to this because I don't listen to that type of music, but I do understand it as protest music. It's a different protest. After you see what just went down and everything that's going down, that's the way they're going. Brown, blue, green, yellow, white, straight, gay, they're all going with, okay, so you call us this is who we are. And you see the music has changed to that a lot, and I'll leave it at that.
I think we have some questions
Wow.
in the chat.
Huh?
I believe there are questions in the chat.
All right, let's go.
We've got one question from David, which is, would you speak to the significance of Sweet Honey being an all-woman ensemble?
Well, the significance of it, the women gather, that can take a lot of different forms. When we started out, there were 10 people in the room with Bernice Johnson Regan as our vocal coach, our vocal director. There were 5 men, 5 or 6 men, or 5 or 6 women. And that's how we started out back in September of 1973. But then at 72, I'm sorry. But then, and it was a man's idea that we have a vocal ensemble to complement the different classes and ensembles we had in our theater company. The world famous Black Repertoire DC, a professional company, equity company, and teaching workshops. And we did everything in house. We had our own sound. I could go on about it. I'm so proud of being a part of that. However, we kept trying to have different rehearsals. And we would sing a little bit in the summertime at the Smithsonian Festival of American Folklife. We would end up singing a bit. But there was one rehearsal where only 4 people showed up: Bernice, me, Louise, and Mai Fredericks. Bernice said, "We don't have a group." Louise said, "Let's keep singing and see what we got." The 3 of us plus Bernice made a beautiful quartet. The sound was incredible. And Bernice said, "Well, I guess we got a group." And Louise said, "Yeah, we got a group." And it was the 4 of us. Some of the men swore that we did it on purpose. We left them out of purpose. We weren't thinking, it's like, everybody come to rehearsal. It's time for rehearsal. And only 4 of us showed up. We didn't intend for it to be that way. Right now, we have a younger person. I'm not going to call him young because he ain't young, but he's younger than us, which don't take much. But in any case, he plays bass. Instead of replacing Dr. Barnwell, her bass was inimitable. I mean, nobody could do what she does, the way she did it.
Amen.
The way she did it was very personal to her style. But we said, well, let's do something different. 4 of us sang together for a while. So let's do something different. Let's get a bass player. So then it was 4 of us in a bass. Now it's 5 of us in a bass for the last 8 years or so. 6 or 8 years, it's been 5 of us. So I can't say that there's any significance to it other than the fact that, and this is significant, it's from our point of view as Black women standing on the shoulders of our ancestors, and our ancestors were the result of the enslavement of African people in the African diaspora here in the United States, what we grew up with. So that our point of view, I think, makes it unique. The fact that most of us who have been in the group are not trained singers. We didn't know people could know it, but basically we were just people who could sing. We sang in the church, we sang in the theater, we sang in the shower. But when you come together and put that sound together, Black woman sound, Black woman sound, yeah, Black woman sound. That's what you get when you get Sweet Honey in the Rock.
Amen to that. Is there another question in the chat?
It is. There's one from Nikki. Nikki, I don't know if you want to speak to this on your own at all. I'll give you a moment if you'd like to.
I'm actually not feeling very well, so I'm just gonna stay silent.
Okay.
You can read her, but you could read her question.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So Nikki's question was about the role liberation theology has played in the evolution of spirituals and gospels, if any.
Good question.
Yeah. Not my purview. I wouldn't be able to answer that one.
Well, I definitely, I think that what we have to understand is that a lot of times we live in a culture that compartmentalizes everything. I asked people the other day, tell me one thing in the U.S., just one, and we're all together. One thing that's not competitive. Give me one thing that's, and literally they couldn't. And I asked over 100. Can you tell me one thing that we do well, or that we do, period, that is not competitive? And they literally could not. Now, I don't know if they didn't have their thinking caps on or whatever. The point is that in a time when we could not participate in any level of competition, it was our day camps and our Sunday schools and our vacation Bible schools, and so we did all that kind of stuff growing up under the spirituals, growing up under the gospels, and the theology that went with that was that you take this to school with you. You do not cheat. You do not steal. You do not kill. You do not da da da. And we just kept. And people would say, "Well, they did this to us. They did to the." No, 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 no. We turned the other cheek, and we grew up with that in terms of what we see from Martin Luther King and all the rest, all of our ancestors, even up to today, with the gentleman that is Barber in North Carolina, with the whole peaceful resistance
Uh-huh.
issue and thing, we're still doing it. I think about the AME churches. I think about the Episcopalian bishop that just lost her job
I didn't know she lost her job. Oh Lord.
for blessing people, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so we can't separate liberation from spirituals, gospels, jazz, blues. All of it is about liberation,
Liberation. Yeah.
even today.
And in the true sense of the liberation theology that is now taught,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
also written about, we would lean into the modern day gospel music is where that is played out more often than not. You know, you mentioned John P. Key, but also some of the latter day performers like Mary Mary or like Kirk Franklin.
Very there.
Those people bring about more of the
Yeah.
liberation ministry through their music than not. I see a hand up from Trisha. Trisha, would you like to ask a question?
Yes. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Hey.
I'm going to stay off camera. I'm having problems with my Zoom. So I heard, I'm sorry, I came at sort of the tail end of some of the conversations. And I heard, there something about resistance that the young people are saying that they're resisting. There is that sense of resistance in their music. I'm going to push back on that a little bit maybe I'm showing my baby boomer age, but we just had this whole celebration of the 50 years or whatever of hip hop. And for my consideration, I didn't hear enough atonement because these folks now
Oh.
are 50s, they're in their 40s, 50s. They have a lot to atone for. And when we see folks like Snoop Dogg that are going the way that they're going, these folks have sold their soul for the bag, and it's and that's what they've taught the younger generations that are coming up now. And in my mind, they have really sold
Ooh.
out the power of Black music. That was our superpower. It was our secret weapon, and they sold it
Ooh.
out. And so I feel that there's got to be a whole lot more criticism and atonement for what they have done, because there's too many dead bodies. Um,
Ooh.
and again, we have to look at the global impact when we go over to the
Ooh.
continent and they're calling us, hey, in, or, the kind of terminology that generation made popular. And they
Well,
haven't atoned for that.
so your
And I
question
know that
is,
they have
Good
their
question.
arguments.
what's your
Okay,
question?
I'm gonna step off there. I'm just gonna say I
It's a
I feel
statement.
that a lot of them don't know the history
They don't want to know the
of our
history.
music, and they
No.
don't want to know the history.
Let me
Wait, I
go
gotta
ahead,
go
Carol.
in there. Wait, I gotta
Go
go
ahead.
in. Now,
Mm.
there's a lot going on with the statement, and it's a lot going on inside of me because during the whole 50th anniversary of hip hop, I was like, the 50th anniversary of Sweet Honey in the Rock, and don't nobody know. They talking about it, and what you're bringing up about the atonement, or at least acknowledging something. There's another way of looking at the music. I'm a little caught here because I understand it, that it's popular. I agree with you about the idea of saying, look, y'all, we know it took some strange curves, but it's a movement. It's 50 years old, and then to look at the music of Sweet Honey, also 50 years old, 51 now, and how that music could have really made some kind of a difference, and how the revolution musically was able to continue. I hope what I just said made any kind of sense. If y'all know what I'm talking about. The
Sure.
Yes,
dichotomy,
yes, it does. It does.
And in that atonement that
dichotomy
Tricia mentioned, that
between the
atonement
two
around
points of, yes,
the atonement around misogyny, you know,
yes.
that one should certainly have been part of that, to understand the harm that came about in hip hop around misogynistic, you know, words and communication. PS.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that I understand where Trisha's coming from, and I personally agree that I find a lot of the new protest music distasteful because it's dishonoring of ancestry. It's dishonoring of who we are as a people. It does not acknowledge the many of them, the backs on which they stand. But then but there's this juxtaposition of a Kirk Franklin that sings, bless me, Lord God, indeed, so everyone around me can have everything they need, versus these parents who have satiated their children to the point where all they do is feel like they have no worth until they're producing something. And so whatever that production looks like, that's what I'm going to do. Since you have devalued me to the point of I'm no more than money, why would they not sing what people are playing for? And I think that's the issue that we're running into. You say one thing, but we do another thing. We
Uh-huh.
say one thing, but we do
Oh.
another thing all the time. And so I don't have a problem with what they're saying, except that we are all responsible for our words, and they are energy, and they will manifest. They will become real. That's why whatever you call your child, you need to be able to deal with that. If you call your child maniac and you can't figure out why they are a maniac,
Oh, come
so
on.
these young people are really
Oh.
responding to this. What you called me? You call me this. So guess who's coming to dinner? And they mean it. They mean it with their whole hearts. I work with them every day, and I'm
Mm.
very concerned, Tricia. But
Um,
look at what we're feeding them.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
PS and Carol, if y'all can hang for a minute, I'll let David let the early departures happen
Yes,
and make some quick announcements, if you don't mind.
Please.
yes.
Well, thank you, Clarence. Cian actually already took care of that in the chat.
Mm.
We do try to close up around 5 o'clock, and then hang out for a little after party if our guests are willing to spend another 10, 15 minutes with us
Yeah, I can do that.
for a more informal conversation. And just a reminder to come back next week, where Clarence will be in conversation with Judge Quander on Black family history.
Yes, we're still going to celebrate Black History Month, despite what they might be doing in federal buildings under the new administration. We're going to talk about American history, which is also Black history, and Black history is American history. Should I write a song about that, Carol? Should that be
Child,
my next poem I write?
I can't tell you what to write, Clarence, but if you decide to do so, I'm sure it will be brilliant.
Because, you know, I need healing.
Just let it come up and out. Let it
Just let
come
it
Music
up.
come
is
up and
healing.
out.
Wait, but
Come up
music
and
is that
out.
balm.
Let it
Music
come
is
up
that
and out, baby.
medicine. It's healing. So I need to start
You
healing
say
myself
so.
so I can get through these next
That's
4
right.
years, you know?
You know what? I got, boy, I got some really cuss word phrases for these, you know what? I'll be cussing them out all day long. They ain't stealing my joy. They ain't gonna stop me from being progressive.
No.
We just gonna get louder. We have been through worse. We
Mhm.
have been through worse. Our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents went through worse. Shoot, man.
Mhm.
Anyway, don't get me started up in here.
I
I
Don't
think a
get me.
want,
lot.
No, I'll just say, get me started. Get me started.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just us understanding, where are you seated?
Yeah,
From what vantage point are you looking at this? And in
yeah.
the Black community, we have a major problem with vantage points. because if
Uh-huh.
my vantage point has me here and my vantage point has me there, and I'm woo-wooing and doing all the things that I do, from my vantage point, we know
Uh-huh.
very well how to create our own little meritocracy within our communities,
Yeah. I have a question.
sororities and that kind of thing.
I have a question. I'm really very curious about what learned people, progressive minded people feel about the I've been saying lately that there's an immaturity in the United States of America, just a blatant silliness about life and what's important. And now y'all were talking about what's not competitive. What do we do in this country? And so I'm in this search for what is the American, true American culture? What is it that we pass on to our young people that is like a, like the flamenco people, the ones that do it, they pass that thing on to their babies, and their babies got that passion and that the dedication. Africans, everybody on the other side of the world is passing on their culture through music and dance, conversations and culture. They just, what are we doing here? And then I just go, we're just too silly. The United States is just too immature, and I'm wondering how these um stressful. You called what? I don't know the word. Biogenics? Did you say?
Epigenics, I'll put it in the
Is
chat.
that the word?
Epigenetics.
Yeah. How that has affected us. Epigenetics. I don't know that word, but I want to know it. I want to know what that is. I'll find it. But anyway,
Yeah.
how that affects us as a culture. As a culture, we don't have. You don't want to go to church. You don't feel like it. But that's a part of what makes you who you are. How you look at the world. Your Girl Scouts, the church, what is it? Some of those other, I can't even say it, but it was like a scouting thing. Whatever those things are that bring us all together, how do we pass the culture and the knowledge? And here's whose shoulders you stand on, and the rites of passage. What is going on there? We are getting disrupted by the immaturity, to me, of the United States.
Let
Ugh.
me address one sense of, in my opinion, immaturity around music and gentrification. So,
Uh-huh.
like Carol, you, MPS, and myself, we've all lived in Washington, D.C., and you do remember go-go music.
Yeah.
So
No, I
Miss
was.
Ann and Becky, Miss Ann and Becky moved into Florida and 7th Street, and they decided, what is that loud music? We don't want to hear
Come on,
that. Let's
baby.
turn it off. So we're gonna
Also,
go
the
and we're going to,
drumming.
not only are we going to complain to the police,
Yes.
but we're going to
Yes.
complain to the city council, and then we're going to put
Yes.
a lawsuit saying we don't care about those people playing that music. Tell them to
Yes.
turn it off.
Yes. And
Well,
also
and remember,
the drumming in
The drumming in
Malcolm
Malcolm
X
X Park and in
Park,
Morningside Park in
the
New York.
Sunday
Yes,
ritualistic. That's right. That's
yes.
right. That's right. Ooh,
mhm,
Joel. Ooh,
Stop beating
ooh,
those
these
drums. We
people.
don't want to hear
Ooh,
that. We just bought our $2 million
because it's
brownstone. We don't want to look out on Sundays and see those dark people out there hopping up and down and being ritualistic
and
around the
drumming.
drum.
I really and I watched. I wrote an article for the Reader in DC that I wanted to have published. And I talked to them, published some things with them, and then I said, well, I want to write an article about the Black church in DC. Oh, really? Yes, I'd like to, because I saw them
Uh-huh.
all leave. I saw them disappear. And I said, wait a minute, wait, what's going on? What's going on? That church closed, that church closed, that church closed, because I just got back here about a year ago to San Diego.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, what is going on? And then I finally found out we cannot hold our services anymore in these neighborhoods that have been completely gentrified. Did not have the foresight early to be able to get the parking lots to the places, because they in churches that they was horse and buggying to. So none of them had parking lots. I shouldn't say none. And so they lost them. And I mean, they lost them. And they turned them into, this is recent, they turned them into apartment buildings. And
Oh.
not all of them. And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
apartment buildings and museums and different things. And I'm like, well, who live in there? It's like a steeple, a steeple of a church. I was very mortified. So anyway, the man, I gave him the article. He said no. He said, I said, well, but we discussed it. He said, yeah, but you're only giving the Black church point of view. I said, that's what it was about. And he says, yeah, well, what have they done for us? He actually said that to me. And I said, you
Oh,
better hope the Black church doesn't close down in Washington, D.C. You think you got issues now? You wait. And then I
yeah.
left. I sent other things into him, but I was very disappointed that he would have the onus, take the onus to say to me, what have they done for us? And so that is a part of what is happening, not just to us, to a lot of people. And I think that the
Uh,
fragmentation that we've drunk and drunk and drunk and drunk and threw up on our children and our children and our
yeah.
children, not your generation, the one after me, my
Uh-huh.
nieces and nephews. And I'm like, what in the world are you doing? Nothing.
Yeah.
How long are you gonna stay on Candy Crush? How long are you gonna
Ah!
stay? How long are you gonna stay on? And again, my family's very astute. They don't, but they got relaxing time, just like everybody else. But is
Yeah.
everybody relaxing? Everybody. Oh, one more thing. I went to my banker and I said, what's going on with Gen Z? Because that's who I work at. Nothing. He's laying back in his chair. I was like, well, what's up, dude? Why y'all like this? Why you so relaxed and come off as so apathetic and uninvolved? What's going on? And he told me point blank, we do not want your stress. I said, excuse me? He said, that's exactly why they're like they are. They refuse. Oh, so, but you want the money? Yeah.
Uh,
You want the Gucci Poochie
uh,
LaRucci? Yeah.
uh-huh.
Don't want the stress. So I'm going to sling that drug over there. I'm going to get this position right here. I'm going to do this and that and the other, but I'm not taking the stressors that you allowed us to inherit because you got to be, wait, not the Jefferson? Who? You can't be
The
JJ.
Jefferson.
You can't be
Oh,
JJ and them. You got to be the
the
Jeffersons.
Jeffersons.
And I mean, this is real. They sit and they look at me and it's like, I never heard nothing like this before because no one has taught us how to communicate.
Wow.
We just don't
Wow.
have it. I don't have it until I learned. Who knows how to communicate? It's a science. And I'm going to say
Yeah.
that till I leave here. It is a science. And we owe it
Yeah.
to all of our children. If I listen to the word, let me put an action verb in the chat for everybody. Here's a new action verb. Here's a new action verb that you brought up, both of you brought up. Ready, ready,
What?
ready.
And I would say,
Wait, there it is.
I can't see that.
It say stupid.
a new,
STOOPID.
a new pronunciation.
I kept listening. I kept saying, don't call people stupid. You don't know. My mom would knock us in the middle of next week if she heard us calling someone stupid. I said, why y'all calling each other stupid? Oh, we're not calling them stupid. We saying that what they did is stupid. I said, wait. So they not stupid? No, they not stupid. That's not nice. I said, but you just said that was stupid. I said, oh, so it's STOOPID. Yeah, you can spell it like that. It's the activity. I said, oh, it's an action verb. Yeah. I'll say, I
It's
got it.
the act of stupid. It is the
Yeah, it's
act
just
of
doing
stupid.
it, but you're not
Doing
stupid.
stupid. Yeah.
You just doing it.
You just
Can
acted
I ask you
stupid. What?
guys, do you think
What?
both of you have worked in the theater? Is there a possibility that more advocation through musical theater could happen? And Carol, since you're a New Yorker now, do you think that it could live on Broadway? I
What?
mean, we've seen a little
Could
bit of it through the years. The use of music, especially musical theater on Broadway, to talk about the
oh
ills and to advocate, social, ills at this time.
no, I don't.
It wouldn't
Bottom line.
survive.
No.
And she can
I
she
think
can't
if
read mine.
something,
She can't read my thing, and I put in no because I agree.
yeah, I can't see it, but I
Yeah.
would say no, especially since the pandemic. Something may slip through. One piece might slip through, but basically you will find more of that off Broadway and off Broadway, and maybe in some Netflix or some streaming series, more topical things will be addressed. But I can't see that being a part of the Broadway MO.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
in
I
the
well,
don't
de-
maybe
really, yeah, because I think here in New York,
it's
I've
not
done some
commercial.
yeah, I've done some little Zooms or salons, where people get together to talk about the issues of theater and culture and social activism. But I really do not.
not
It's
with the
got to
depth
make
of the
money.
humanities.
Yeah,
Hmm
it's
Yeah,
got to
it would
make
not.
money.
Yeah, it wouldn't be commercial enough for
Yeah,
people to
off
want to
Broadway
put
would be a
millions
good.
in. Yeah.
Hey, Clarence,
Yeah,
Jacqueline has
Jacqueline.
her hand up. I think Jacqueline has a question. This is so engrossing. It's-
Go ahead.
Hi,
Oh,
Doctor.
it's brown. That's why we ain't see it.
Yeah,
Go, girlfriend. It's
I'm
brown.
sorry.
Go, Jacqueline.
I was invisible as a Black woman. I'm used to it, but it doesn't stop me. But I I was listening to the conversation about the difficulty that we're having with the music and the language and the lack of empathy to go back and make those corrections, especially for the ones that made it. But I also find it very interesting because it seems to me, being one that was in that generation in the beginning of rap, that it wasn't so strong in the beginning. It wasn't so offensive in
Yeah,
the beginning. And I'm thinking of Arrested Development and other people like that.
right.
It's very educational. And sometimes you had to go back and look something up because it was something you may have forgotten from Black history. And even when I think about it now, with the music now, the thing that I still can't understand is why we have not been able to crack that code of making sure those that are spreading the good, the tanks and the beggars and the Ja Guide Me and the Daris and those that are giving us songs about that are healing and I don't know if you know Tank and the Beggars, but um
Uh-uh.
that chick is from New Orleans and she is hot. And why haven't we been able to crack the code where that is taking more priority than some of the other things that are going out there? And I know it's an industry issue of what is forced, but with the buying power of the African American community, I still don't understand why it takes me so much effort to ensure my kids and my, you know, young people that I surround myself with are getting something of
Yeah.
value because it's there. It's there. It's
It's
available.
almost it's almost like they don't even have a choice. They don't have much of a choice. What gets pumped into their brain on the radio and the internet or whatever is the kind of music we're talking about that doesn't really uplift or open your heart to receive good or give good back out. Money, come, me over you, who got the best ladies and the men and nasty stuff I wouldn't want to even say in my bathroom. Anyway, that's just me. I'm just old school. I just want things to make sense and be kind and generous and uplifting and poignant and inspired. So make people think, inspire them to do better. So I don't know. I
I
really
think
don't
that's
know.
I
I
think
just know
that's
that I wish more of our music. Yeah, just wish more of our kind of music was more prevalent, and that people who are writing those kinds of songs had an avenue for it.
Well, thank God that we have many more outlets now to get music out with the
Uh
advent
huh.
of technology, unlike we had in previous years back in, the 70s and the
Right.
80s. It wasn't possible to reach, in the way that we're
As
able to reach
many. Yeah.
now. Yeah.
I also think that we have to be realistic that it's not an isolated situation. All cultures around the world are dealing with the quote unquote rebellion of youth against the stressors that we have added to their lives, the planet lives. I see the grunge students, I see and clients, I see the Hello Kitty group, the Hello Kitty
They
Japanese.
still exist? They still exist?
No, it's huge now. I stopped an African,
Oh,
I stopped an African American young lady today that I had met last semester, and I just asked her about herself, and she kind of has that. So they separate into the grunge, and they laugh at me when I say the grunge group, the punk group, the Hello Kitty group, the different groups, and they'll school me, and that's how they divide. But this is what happens: the ones that are not the pretty girls, the this girl, the ones that are not the preferable or don't have the preference, they hide and they try to find ways to express themselves. And when you listen to
oh,
their music is a lot of times it's very sad, very melancholy, very
emo,
you don't see me
yeah.
as opposed to I'm loud, I'm out, I'm proud, I'm this, I'm that, and you can't kiss my well, I get all of it and I understand all of it. And I don't have a problem with anything because we did it to them. Now, you decide what kind of life you want. You make that decision. You must be transformed by renewing your mind. We are all residents of our
Uh,
residue, all residents of our residue. I'm going to ask those of us that are still left, where are you sitting? Where are you sitting? You're not sitting here. I'm not sitting here. I'm sitting thinking, I got to get the dogs out. I got to do this. I got to do that. That doesn't, that, but right now I am fully present because the present that I need right now requires my presence. And so I must stay present. But you have to choose to listen every time. You have to choose to communicate. And a lot of them just following. Somebody love me.
uh-huh.
Somebody want me. Somebody approve of me. And I spoke on this today. The fallacies of approval have taken your lives away
Uh,
from you because you must. But we did it. We did it. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. And then they come and you got to be rewarded for bringing your homework to school. You
I'm
got
gonna
to be
ask you
rewarded for
this.
taking out trash.
I'm
What is
gonna
that?
ask you this. Wait. Forgive me, because I'm going someplace, and some people might say, "Why is she asking that question that way?" Is this all people of the United States of America are good job, and coddling the kids, or is this white folks?
It's everybody that
I'm
has
so
this
sad.
listen, it's everybody that has decided that has drunk the Kool-Aid that their
Oh,
value is based in things. No, it's not everybody. It ain't me, it ain't you, it's not the people probably
no, but you
sitting.
understand my question because I don't
Yes.
think of Black families
Mm-mm,
having to. I think of us as preparing our
mm-mm,
children
mm.
better,
Not right
like I
now.
prepared my 40-year-old
What
when
you
he
gonna
was
prepare?
about,
Preparing for
yeah,
what, Carol? What you preparing them
preparing
for?
him to be out here to be a good, loving human, to understand human values, to be
Where?
morally. That's how you know,
I yes, you know
that's
we know that, and there's
yeah,
lots
yeah,
of us,
yeah.
and there's lots of young parents, and I know 20 year
Okay,
old parents that are
who
still
are
doing
in
that.
that?
But the
Yeah.
vast majority
Ooh,
is, I got
sad.
mine, you get yours. I got mine, you get yours.
Ooh,
I used to run into kids begging in
ooh.
front of the stores, and I said, "Why are you out here begging?" Because my mother told us to go get something to eat. Well, go get something to eat. Well, we got to. I said, "Oh, I see. Okay, that's
Okay,
another
going
story."
back to the music, y'all, I just
Okay.
have to say
Oh.
this.
I
I
know
did
that's
watch
right.
I did watch the Grammys last night from start to finish and
Ooh.
almost watched the first 5 minutes in the repeat. And I just
Mm.
want you all to know
Mm.
that Black music is country music and country music is Black music. And I don't care who knows otherwise. I'm here to tell you that Black people created country music out of blues music. And when you got the ability to make a record, you push the Black people out the door because you said the white
And
people
put the
won't
white
buy
people
the
in.
record if you got the black people on it. So you pushed out Linda Martell, who Beyonce got to thank last night after working 13 years
Ooh,
on a country album, and it won last night. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. The truth is out. The banjo was brought here from
from
Africa in
where?
the form of the kora.
That's
So
right.
no, you didn't invent the banjo. It came here.
The
It was made
banja,
here. And yes, the people in Appalachia, some of them were black and introduced the blues music, which became country music.
the Black Appalachians.
Yeah, listen to this. And
Yes,
so we know the origin of cowboy,
Uh-huh.
the origin of cowboy, and I got it right here. Now
Not cow,
there's several, but this one says
not
a
cow man.
man or
Yeah,
boy who tends cattle is a cowboy.
yeah.
That's
They
how
were
they got
black.
that name. Who was tending the cattle?
The blacks.
Many of them. Many.
I just know that last night
African.
Beyonce got to turn her backside to the Grand Ole Opera, to the CMA, and all the people that wanted to say she, being a country black girl from Texas, wasn't worthy of making a country song. That's all I
Well,
want to say.
Oh,
it's done.
It was
It's
a
over.
punctuation, and for me, it was a hallelujah moment. So thank
Lord,
you.
I hear you.
I know. I know.
I
I know.
actually
And
feel
a lot of us
sorry
feel
for
that
that.
way.
I actually feel sorry for that moment because
Mm,
when I saw that she won, and I didn't watch the Grammys last night. I
mm.
was sad because
Oh,
the Country Music Awards had gone several weeks before.
right.
Black artists were shunned
Of
at the
course.
Country Music Awards. Shabuzi and Rashad, there's quite a few. Blanco Brown, they were shunned at the awards, and Shabuzi was supposed to perform and did not. So
Oh,
I Beyonce is in a whole.
Mm,
Beyonce
of
has
course.
given
Yeah.
America what she needed to give them to be where she is.
mm.
Well,
There are a
of
lot of
course, she's
artists out there, and
right.
I'm hoping that this album that she put out would put a lot of others on the stage. And I don't see that happening, and I'm afraid that
I don't think
black country
so.
music is going down the same road as rap did. And
Shabuzi
that's
was
my
on
fear.
stage last night performing. You said Shabuzi. You weren't thinking
No,
about the Grammys.
no, not at the
Country
Grammys.
Music Awards. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a
So
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
a whole other thing. How, my point is we co-opt a people's culture. So you've co-opt country music from black people. You've appropriated in your culture, and you're trying to own it after all this time without telling the truth. And then you're going to shut people out who indigenously are connected to that music.
Right.
And so
I'm
what
running in circles.
Beyonce has done was intentional to the history of that music when she put all those country artists who've been shut out on that album, and she let people know symbolically with her choices, which were intentional in the creation of that album. So I'm just using that one moment to say here's another way that throughout music history of black people, once again, we have triumphed, but it's so late. Think about all those country music artists who could have been making a good living, just like a lot of jazz people could have been making a good living.
Uh-huh.
All the rhythm and blues and the rock and
The
roll
pop.
people could
Yeah.
have been making a good living had their work not been co-opted and appropriated in some other person's pocket.
But Clarence, for me, I'm always the one. I'm running in circles now where the people that I'm running with, for the most part, aren't having that conversation. They don't care. It's not they don't care that Beyonce won. They're just tired of the comparativeness. And everything that we do and say and think and
Ooh.
act is about comparing ourselves to the Eurocentric paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah.
We mm,
It's
we don't
it's
have to
I
we
mean
don't have to be here. And that's why so
yeah.
many people are leaving here. This is the country that these people created until it's not. And we've all had to deal with the values, attitudes, and beliefs, and their 7 cultural values that they put into every aspect of religion, education, socioeconomics, and education. That is
Yeah.
not going to change until the guard change.
That's right. Even yeah, they ain't gonna
Yeah, Generation Z
yeah.
needs to understand that it is their benefit to not drink my Kool-Aid, they Kool-Aid, they Kool-Aid, to create a different type of Kool-Aid that I happen to call co-opetition. Your individual best for the collective good. I'm pushing it, I'm pushing it, I'm pushing it. I make them,
Push.
I don't make them, I ask them to recite it with me every single day. And some of
Yeah.
them are starting to shake their heads, and they already believe there are a lot of warriors out there that are young Gen Z people saying, treat the planet right, treat LGBT right, treat the little kids right, leave the pigs alone, whatever it is that they're doing. There is a vast majority of them, but they're being drowned out by the loud drumming of the warrior nation that is being created right now. It used the word warrior. He actually used the word. We don't need that anymore. We need to take care of us. And then whoever wants to come and
So
honor
I'm gonna
our
Yeah, we
ask
past,
if
can't
we have
fix them. Yeah,
yes,
we can't fix them. We
no, we
can't fix
can't.
them.
So
They need to
everybody,
fix themselves.
I went to a meeting yesterday, and when I brought up some other people and groups, they said we're not interested. And I was a little taken back. They
Uh-huh.
said, "Oh, we got to do this for ourselves now." They didn't
Uh-huh.
care about us then. They didn't care about us. They didn't care about us. They didn't care about us. When my granddad's place went into a bodega, or
Oh.
my street turned into a Ranch 99. See, so this is what a lot of the protest is about now. We just don't care anymore because you messed it up, and you're asking us to fix your mess while you still drinking it. I'm telling you, they're out.
it can't be fixed, it has to be rebuilt.
It has
But
to be.
Carol, I'm gonna let you give final words because we're going to wrap up.
All
So
right.
any final words you want to say around music, if you want to say something about
I
Sweet
think,
Honey, and your next
yeah.
appearances that we can jet to around the world where you're appearing,
Oh,
or
Charles.
I can't believe it.
Okay, yeah, 51 years. I'm really honored to be a part of the legacy of that is Sweet Honey in the Rock from the beginning and then coming back in the 90s, and I'm still here. Um, it's just really, I want every young person, the generation after that, I want Sweet Honey in the Rock to be an intergenerational phenomenon because I know that the music is healing. I've seen it. I've seen 21-year-olds. It's the first time I ever heard y'all. My mom brought me. We were at the Blue Note in New York City. 12-year-olds. I love your music. Little boys, 7-year-old. I never heard anything like this in my life. So that the transformative power of music that is healing, that is uplifting, that is inspiring. I really pray that is really my savor, my selfless service to this planet. That's why I'm still here because it's a calling and I know it's important. And I just want not just the appreciation of a larger audience for the women, the four of us who do the hard lifting, the heavy lifting every day, to have something that I'm getting emotional because I'm in it, but
it's okay.
that like when Bernice's song it says, "A way out of no way is flesh out of flesh, courage that cries out at night." A way out of no way is more than anyone could ask of any one woman.
That's right.
It's called Ought to Be a Woman, how we do what we do to help, like you said earlier, to help. We're going to be there. Ask a Black woman. We got that. That's us. For our younger ones, for our children, and that this music, whew, through the children, through the, I just want us healing, a healing. This era that we are in, yeah, you're gonna get just what you asked for. You're gonna suffer through these next 4 years. And I'm sure at the end of 4 years, your house almost sold out, you ain't got no food, you tried to put bleach in your arm to get rid of the COVID or the duvet or whatever. after all this, you're going to still open your stupid mouth, stupid, and say, oh, yeah, I'm better off now than I was during the previous administration. I pray for healing, for light, right understanding. Sweet honey in the rock, rock the rock in the
I
rock,
want
honey in the
I
rock.
want you to know that
Amen.
we at Antioch will continue to put the music of Sweet
Yeah,
Honey out there. I know that Dr. Gills uses it in her classroom, and this is not
yes,
the first time that I've introduced Sweet Honey to Messy Conversation. So we'll keep
good.
doing that. That's a small part, a small thing, but we're going to keep on doing it for as long as at least I can commit myself. For as long
Thank
as I
you.
can draw breath, I'm going to always put it out there in the world. And it's so
Me
interesting. We
too.
had some people who came to your concert at Northridge,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't ever call Sweet Honey a concert. When people ask me about Sweet Honey, I just tell them you got to go and experience it because it is that. It's an experience.
Yeah, it
You
was
have to go
marvelous.
and
It's like
experience it.
it's multimedia, everything mixed,
It's
everything together,
everything. It's the
vibes,
Yeah,
human
everything.
soul in live form is what it is. I mean,
yeah,
if I got to put some words on it, but I tell people go and experience it because it is an experience. And that I
exactly.
just have a quick trivial question to ask you.
Thank you.
You do a song, and I don't know what song it is, but it's about womanhood. It says, Who will hold my hand? What is that song? Who will
Oh, now
hold my hand?
wait. No, there's one song that's called "Oh Lord, Hold My Hand" while I
Okay,
run this race. That's a spiritual.
right. But there's a song that you guys wrote,
Oh,
and
wait a minute.
it
Bernice
kind of
wrote it.
illustrates
Woman, hold my hand.
the whole
Woman,
moment of
hold.
womanhood from birth to death. It's like the song tells the whole story of womanhood from birth to death, and it keeps the refrain is like, Who will hold my hand?
No, that's not "Who Will Hold My Hand." It's
Okay.
"Where do I go when I need familiar songs and play something faces unheard? Where do I go when I need familiar woman hold my hand? That's it. That's Bernice's song she wrote about her sister May Francis, who died at an early age. And that
Okay.
was her close sister. Woman hold my hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Where do I go when I need familiar?
Yes. Okay.
So
Where'd I
yeah,
go?
songs have left me to for places unheard. Yes. Woman hold my hand. It's called May Francis.
May Francis. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys. Final announcements. We'll be back next week talking about the Black American family saga of the Quanders, who are out of Washington,
Ooh.
D.C. And they were all owned, get this, by George Washington during slavery and where they
Uh-huh.
are now with their ancestry and their legacy. So join us next week as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, no matter what they're doing in the federal government.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you,
You're
Pierre.
very welcome.
Yeah,
I'm so honored.
thank you.
Thank you all.
I'm
Thank
really
you
honored. My goodness,
both.
Miss Mallard. Mm.
I
Thank
shall
you.
be in touch with both of you. Thank you from the
God
bottom of my
bless.
pitter patter heart.
Thank you. Thank you, SDSU that showed up. They're probably
Absolutely.
gone.
Thank you.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Thank you.
And to the team, God bless.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.